Today's topic makes me a little nervous for a couple of reasons. I did leave the religion of my upbringing. I was brought up to be a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and they have a particularly different view on the resurrection than most of Christians. Um, and after leaving that religion and discovering that there are dozens of other Jesus Savior type archetypes that were born of a virgin mother, that had wise men come bring them gifts at their birth, that could walk on water, heal the sick, raise the dead, and died and was resurrected 3 days later, like the exact same story has happened dozens of times in history across multiple different cultures. And at first, I was really irritated by this. I was just like, what in the world? Like, I thought Jesus was special, you know? But now you're telling me Osiris and Mithra and Prometheus and Quetzalcoatl. Just there's so many different deities across so many different religions that have very similar stories. So I was kind of going through a little bit of an existential crisis. And I had a really beautiful friend ask me, well, why do you think there are so many people across history and cultures with the same story? Do you think that story maybe is important if there's been so many recounts of it, right? Retells, versions or whatever. And that's when I realized that it was this archetype. It was very much this archetypal construct of death and rebirth, right? That's the crucifixion and resurrection. There's the death and then reborn a new way, a new, better, holier way. And so with the concept of archetypes, it really gave me this beautiful moment of pause and realization, because I'm a huge fan of Jungian psychology philosophy and truly believe what Jung teaches, that we all have all of the archetypes within our own conscious, within our own psyche. We have the mother, we have the king, we have the tyrant, we have the toddler, we have the jester, we have the devil, we have the angel, we have, all of these things are archetypes, and they all exist according to Jungian psychology. My recollection of it anyway, is that they all exist within our own subconscious, our own psyche, to remind us of our own power. Now, I do love Jesus. I am a huge fan of his. It's his followers. Some of his followers I have a little bit of a problem with. Um, but Jesus is amazing. He's an incredible ascended master, along with all of these other beautiful Osiris and Isis and the rites and rituals that they created. I mean, Osiris's brother chopped him up into 13 pieces and spread him across the world. And Isis was like, I'm going to find him and I'm going to put him back together because that is my man. And she goes everywhere and finds all parts except for his phallus, because Set threw it in the river and the fish ate it. So they make a new one. Like, could you imagine crafting that just for a second? Like, and they, in the king's chambers, that's what we call them now, but in the sepulcher, she did actually the first mummification. And that mummification continued on as a tradition because of that, because people, these pharaohs will hope that they will rise from the dead like Osiris did. So, this concept of death and birth is really beautiful. My life's purpose in Gene Keys is shoot, now I can't remember what the shadow is, but it's rebirth is the gift. Rebirth is the gift. Revolution is the city, the highest frequency. And as I've contemplated that gene key, I've contemplated the resurrection and the crucifixion. I've had lots of personal experiences with some different plant medicines that are legitimate ego deaths. And then being reborn completely new. And then also just, death of an identity, death of a way of living, when I got divorced, that was a death of a relationship. When I moved homes, that was the death of that community and that relationship and the way that I present myself that way. And then we get to be reborn again, like the phoenix rising from the ashes. And so my personal belief is that this resurrection is very much you have to die for your own sins. I don't necessarily believe that Jesus saved the world. Sorry, not sorry. Don't hang me on a cross. Here's the heretic in me coming in, right? I believe that Jesus was saying, hey, you have to do this too. You carry the weight of the world's sins in your own mind up here. We pay attention to the news and the political events, and even just within our own selves, the battles that we have against ourselves. These are all sins, because sin, according to Mary Magdalene's gospel, is a divorce from the divine. That's all sin is when you forget who you are. You forget that you are a holy, divine human being here in this 3D world. And A Course in Miracles has the same exact concept, that any act that is not out of peace and love is a cry for help. I've forgotten who I am, right? I am divine love and peace. And any act that is not out of that is an illusion. It is false. It is fake. And so this whole concept of Jesus even telling us, I and my Father are one, be still and know that you are God. It was very much come follow me, because I did it, you can do it. I have this human vessel and was able to transcend. You can too. But you got to do it yourself. You got to spend your 40 days and 40 nights in the desert of whatever that is for you. You have to hang on the cross for all of your own sins and bear the burdens of the world that you carry within your mind and heart. Because only when you stop seeing pain, suffering, separation, disease, and start to see love and peace, you're just going to continue to keep creating more of it. And so when we die to that sin, that separation between us and our divine self, our divinity, our own God self within us, then we can be reborn and remember that that's who we are. That's who we came here to be. So that is one of my big takes on this whole resurrection piece. I'm curious your thoughts on this. Next week, actually next Thursday, I will be teaching a rebirth transmutation activation ceremony in Sacred Intuition Society. I'm going to be guiding people through a death and a rebirth, and practicing this awareness of being still and knowing that who's the philosopher that said he is the wise man who dies before he truly dies, knows life. Damn, I'm butchering this. So anyway, I just, like, man, that's going to drive me crazy. I can't remember who said that. I'm going to have to find it. And if I find it, I'll post it in the comments. But yeah, it is time to find and remember who you are, and give up the old ways of the old world of separation, that there's you versus me, us versus them. Any type of belief system or judgment that separates and segregates is not what we came here to experience. It causes pain and dis-ease. And in order to be free of that and heal, we have to crucify ourselves, hang on the cross for our own sins that we carry again within ourselves, and then be reborn again with our Christ consciousness. So Christ consciousness, Christ does not belong alone to Jesus. He doesn't have like the copyright to that word. Christ means the anointed one. And this Christ consciousness has been around before Jesus, and we all have access to this Christ consciousness. And resurrection literally means to rise up for the revolution, just rise up. A little bit of Hamilton there. But it is time. It is really time for all of us. Like there's so much craziness and chaos happening in the world right now. There's so much fear and separation, man. If you watch, CNN and then flip to Fox, it's like you are watching two completely parallel different realities happening. It's like this one says it's like this and it's so, oh my God, so crazy. And this one says, no, it's like this and oh my God, it's so crazy. And these guys will, but these guys, and it's just like, what is even real? Because not like, and there's so much, you against me and they against them. And it's just time to stop and remember that we all breathe the same air. We all receive sustenance from the same sun. We all require the soil to grow our food and for our shelter. When can we grow the fuck up and stop being petty pants about power and money and being greedy and instead say, hey, let's work together. We all have these amazing gifts and resources. There's enough to go around. And we don't need to be selfish and we don't need to be greedy and we don't need to have power mongering because there is no. One of my favorite analogies is from Marianne Williamson's book on money, work, and miracles. So the book, Marianne Williamson on money, work, and miracles. And in there, she talks about abundance being like the slice of pie, right? And how, or like a pie. And if you take a big slice, there's less pie left for me. But this is the thinking that we currently have is this scarcity thinking that there's only one pie and everybody wants their piece. Well, guess what? We live in an abundant universe, in an abundant way. And there's way more than just pie. There's brownies, there's cheesecake, there's cupcakes, there's gelato, there's soft serve, there's whatever. There's anything and everything available. And when we can stop feeling like this, what is it called when you have your blinders on and trying to like figure out how to get me and mine and take it from them because they have what I want, so I've got to get it, instead of going like, what if it's over here? What if something even better is over here? And I started this whole part to talk about separation, and remember that we're all one, that we are literally all connected through, again, the air, the sun, the earth. We all have bodies. We all need food, water, shelter, clothing. We all want love, approval, and acceptance. We all just want to be who we came here to be, so like, what if we just do that? Crazy thought. I know. Wild thought. But I mean, if historians say that history repeats itself, and we as a society in 2025, with this invention of the internet and social media and Wi-Fi connecting in the cloud, like if we like believe that we are such superior intelligent beings, then why the fuck do we still think war is the way to win? When we know history repeats itself, and if you look back in history, never, ever in a time of history has war solved shit. It just continues to solve more and more cause more and more problems. Because it's not us against them, right against wrong. It's like, how do we come together and find a win-win solution? There's the book Infinity Games. I don't remember who wrote that one. But right now we're playing win-lose games. When it's me against you, there's gonna be a winner and a loser. But whenever there's a loser, there's never a winner. That is a zero-sum game. Because when I believe that giving is receiving, right? And this is karma too. This is another thing called karma. You can call it karma, sacred reciprocity. You can call it the golden rule. Every major religion and culture has their own version of this exact same rule. But I tell my kids all the time, karma's only a bitch if you are. And when I realize that when I give to you, I am also receiving something just as valuable, if not more valuable, and also trusting that that monetary value will eventually come back in some other way, shape, or form, because that's the cyclical nature of our world, our universe. Just take a look at the way everything spins, and it comes and it goes like the water, right? The water today, it's been raining and snowing down, and then it lands on the ground and it soaks into the grass and the trees. And then we eat the fruit, and we eat the delicious water-filled oranges, and then our cells soak it up, and then whatever we don't need, we release, and it goes back into the earth, and then it goes up into the sky, and then it comes back down in the water and back through this beautiful cycle of give and receive. And guess what? When Mother Nature, just watch. Remember, we are part of Mother Nature. Earth, my body; water, my blood; air, my breath; fire, my spirit. We are a part of Mother Nature. And however she works, we also work. And when she gives, she receives. When she gives us rain, she receives nurturing water and lush minerals and vitamins for her beautiful plant beings and animal beings and human beings and fish beings and creepy crawly beings. We're all connected. We all need the same thing. So let's stop being greedy. Let's realize that there's enough for everyone. If we stop just controlling a little bit, relax your ass, relax your shoulders, relax your forehead, relax your jaw, and remember, be still, and I am God. Be still and know that I am God. And just for a moment, what if you didn't believe in us versus them, right versus wrong, and that we were all sovereign beings that knew how to honor ourselves and those around us and the land that we live on, and we gave unconditionally, and because of that we also received, and that we could live in this beautiful sacred reciprocity. A little chickadee just came up to my windowsill. Oh, he's so cute. Ah. Okay. There you have it. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful Good Friday tomorrow. And I hope that your Easter Sunday is really beautiful. Brittany wrote a beautiful thing about Ostara. So that's really fun to check out. Ishtar, she is another Mesopotamian goddess who her husband, very Jesus story, died and was resurrected 3 days later. And Anna, she went down into the underworld, and then 3 days later came back up. Persephone, there's a lot of them. So what is it in your life that is ready to be crucified, be put up on the stake, and say, no more, no more, and then to rise again, whole, fresh, new, in love and peace, and more connected to your holy, divine human self, that God self, the Christed self, your Christ consciousness. Just what if? That's all. That you don't have to do anything, but just sit with that thought and see, notice how it makes you feel. Contemplate it. Actually, this week I listened to a Duncan Trussell podcast, and he had a man on there that it was very biblical. Talked about the Last Supper. He talked about the crucifixion. And he had a really interesting viewpoint. He is Christian, he said, which was interesting, but he had a really interesting viewpoint of Jesus's purpose here on this planet that has kind of got me thinking. He believes that Jesus is God's way of saying, hey, sorry, I've been such an asshole for the first, part of the Old Testament. A jealous God, a vengeful God, a wrathful God, who just kind of didn't give a shit about his kids. Like, you're complaining? Fine, I'll kill you. I kill you. And how he kind of finally, it was his first time being a dad, like he was learning how to take care of his children, I guess, and And so the Jesus being the like, hey, sorry, I messed up and was such an asshole, and let me make it a little bit easier for you. So let me give you, this sacrifice. And it's really interesting if you think of like, pagans were, witches and these blood sacrifices, the Mayans and the Aztecs and all of these different cultures and religions that believed that there needed to be a blood sacrifice to appease the gods. Well, then we, sacrifice our God, Jesus, and then we cannibalize him. So we eat his body as bread and we drink his blood as wine. And, like the Vikings, they would do their blood offerings and they drink the blood of the goats and the lambs, and just really interesting. And how we're, for some reason, it's okay for us to do it our way. It's more sacred and more holy, but theirs is wrong. This is really interesting to see all of the different aspects and concepts. And I think I've gone a little skewampus in the purpose here that I originally set out to talk about. So God okay, this man's view on Jesus, that this was God's way of apologizing and saying sorry for being such an asshole. And now I proved to you, I became human. I figured out I had to learn how to be human too, and show you the way of how to get back to me. And it's possible. You can do it too. You got to just, sacrifice some stuff, and trust that I got you and it'll be good. So it's really interesting. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to stop talking now because it's been 20 minutes. Holy moly. Okay. Love you. Bye. Happy Easter, Ishtar, Ostara, whatever you want to call it.